One of the issues that we do have within the accounting and finance programmes is that we have quite large numbers on our first years. So we have somewhere between 400 and 500 students on each first year. So that in itself brings quite a lot of problems when you're teaching large classes. We obviously don't teach all 500 at once, but we can be teaching up to sort of 220, 230 in our main big classes. So that caused issues in that I wanted to be able to personalise the learning experience for each student, but when I have 200 and odd in a class, it's very hard to do that. You can't go around every student and ask them how they're getting on and identify whether they're struggling or whether they have any issues. One of the issues in particular with my subject was that trying to set the right pace for all the students is difficult. Some find it too fast, some find it too slow. So we've introduced a flipped learning approach, which basically means that prior to their first class on a particular topic, the students are expected to watch a podcast, somewhere between 10 and 15 minute podcast on Moodle. And following watching the podcast, they're also expected to do a short quiz on Moodle. Then when they attend their first class, which we're calling a seminar, we do lots and lots of interactive exercises rather than repeating the knowledge that they've had already in the podcast. The second reason for introducing the flipped learning and having a podcast and then the face-to-face sessions much more interactive is that financial accounting is one of those subjects where it's not about memorising information, it's about applying the knowledge that you've learned to particular scenarios. And the only way that they can learn that is to do lots and lots of practice exercises. And that's where Nearpod starts to come in. Because if I just do lots and lots of exercises with them and their workbooks, I would never get to find out whether they've actually got anywhere, whether they're struggling, whether they've just sat and done nothing for 2 hours. Whereas by using Nearpod to capture some of the information that comes out of them having completed those exercises, that means I can keep an eye on whether they're engaging or whether they're not. It is time consuming. I always knew it would be. I had to in effect rewrite the unit. My workbook had to be sort of completely changed to have notes from the podcast and then the exercises from the seminars as well as tutorials. And then obviously on top of that is the time to record all the podcasts. Having said that, I do sort of have the view that once this is done, although there'll be tweaks, some of the podcasts I've been very careful not to use dates in them, not to refer to, well, this is from this week or this is from that week, because that does mean that I can reuse some of those podcasts. You know, if they're right and they worked, then I won't change them. And next year, there might be quite so much work. The other key thing that I would say I've learned along the way is that it's really important I don't repeat everything that's in the podcast in the seminar. Otherwise, they just assume that they don't need to watch it. And that obviously would become an issue. Feedback's been very good. The students do seem to like it. They like the fact that they're not sat listening for 2 hours and that they do get the interaction. They like the fact that the podcast is there constantly for them to go back to. I think the engagement is higher than it has been in the past. Looking both at the attendance figures at the face-to-face classes, but also I think we're tackling the questions earlier that come out. The topic we started this last week was double entry bookkeeping, and it's always a bit of a tricky topic for students that haven't done it before. And what I found really interesting is they have been prepared to stay behind at the end, even on the class that I do quite late on that doesn't finish till 6 o'clock. They've stayed and they've got their questions answered and they've gone away feeling like, actually, I'm starting to get to grips with this. Whereas I think in the previous format of lecture, followed by a big super tutorial, followed by a small tutorial, it wasn't probably until they'd been doing that topic for almost 2 weeks before they started to actually ask the questions that they needed answered.